Greetings, brethren and sisters, and welcome once again to the Gillie Priest Revolutionary channel. And we are going to continue on from where we left off. I'm kind of giving a brief synopsis and explanation to the Marcus Garvey People's Political Party constitutions, articles, and bylaws. And one of the things we touched upon yesterday, and I like to kind of basically reiterate, is the importance of having a constitution, establishing articles and bylaws. You see, one of the things is this, because we as a people had been restrained by laws, slaveocracy laws, colonial laws, for centuries. We have an aversion to abiding by rules and regulations. We have a natural resistance against anything that's tried to restrict us mentally, physically, and spiritually. And that is understandable. It is understandable. But at the same time, we have to understand one thing. We have to understand that without constitution, articles, and bylaws, we are going to have is lawlessness. You're going to have what they call unruliness. You're going to have a situation where every man is only bound by his own individual conscience in trying to act collectively. There is nothing wrong with a man feeling bound by his own individual consciousness. But if every man would claim that them is a part of an organization and is yet still will only adhere to his own individual belief system, then that is the remedy for chaos. We're not going to get anywhere. We will never get anywhere acting like that or believing that is the way forward when you're talking about a people who is under continuous subjugation for centuries. So the Right Honorable Marcus Garvey himself recognized that, and he recognized the fact that if we don't govern ourselves by rules and regulation encapsulated within a particular philosophy and opinion, then we're going to become a people who become subject to lawlessness. Become a people who is always crying for organization and centralization, but unable to fulfill it. Why? Because we believe that every man has a right to do what he wants to under each and every circumstances, and that cannot work when you're talking about a collective movement. There has to be rules and regulation and constitution and articles which governs our actions, so that we will be able to move forward as an organ in bringing about this liberation of the people. So yesterday we started to read the prologue of the Constitution, and we're going to continue on to dealing with some part of the prologue and see if we can conclude the prologue at this session and then maybe move on to the articles and bylaws. So in order to organize ourselves, the Right Honorable Marcus Garvey is basically saying the reason for this is not a mystery. The sum total of the government collapse is traceable to the growing spirit of selfishness, graft, greed, and corruption of the individuals that make up the government. As the country cannot govern itself, it finds expression and executes its edict through the individuals that compose the government. Therefore, we have a human expression of governance. So if the individual is corrupt, so too will the administration that he or she is a part of will be corrupt. You see, when the Right Honorable Marcus Garvey has said in that part of the Constitution is this: you can write the most illustrious words on a piece of paper. You can create the most ideal constitution to govern a country and to govern a people, because you need some form of governance, because you cannot have 1 million people left to their own conscience. And you cannot have 1 million people taking up, for example, a vote. If you need to vote on something, you're going to call 1 million. And every time you need to make a decision, you have to go call the entire individuals within the nation to vote. That is ridiculousness. So people throughout ages recognize the viability of creating institution of government. We do not fall outside of that necessitating need. So we create a government, but we have to recognize that governments are made up of individuals, and individuals have their own personality and their own character. And these personality and character they bring to their action when they form government. So if an individual like what Marcus Garvey said is corrupt, and you have a bunch of corrupt individuals within a party governing a country, the government is going to be corrupt, because each and every man carries in his own corrupt and larceny within his heart, within government. He's there for himself and not for the people. And Marcus Garvey said that is why we need to have rules and regulation. That is why we have to have constitutions and articles and bylaws to regulate human negative conduct and behavior. We can't leave it just to the good grace and say, right, because the man or the woman come out and utter certain things, means that them is right and correct, and them we abide by the very words which them utter. No. Experience has shown us otherwise. So we have to bound ourselves within these rules and regulations. And if an individual feels that the rules and regulations and bylaws and articles of the Constitution is too restrictive to he or she, then we can try to change it. And if it does not change by the majority consensus of those who are members of the party, then like you said, that individuals should do the most honorable thing and step aside. And that's the reality of the situation. But we cannot be a people calling for unity. We cannot be a people calling for organization. We cannot be a people calling for centralization. And then when we have to do whatever the discipline and the principle and the scientific approach to organization is requested, then every man run to him corner and say, him can't be like that. And no man can't tell him what to do. Them think that is foolishness. And that is why for the last 30, 40, 50, 60 years, we're upon zero. We're upon zero when we should be at 100. We're still upon zero, try to figure out the basics. So to continue with this, in the words of the Constitution, if we must correct the maladministration and failure of the state, then we must be willing to apply change to the way we have done and are still doing. We must be prepared to create a paradigm shift to take our beloved country out of the morass of corruption, crime, greed, and mayhem. Now, yesterday I kind of touched upon corruption, you know, because the word is a very deceptive word. It is a word that will let, whenever that word is spoken, it will let us assume that everybody have the same common denominator understanding of what the word corruption is. You understand? But we have to understand that under the colonial system and under the post-colonial system under which we presently exist, the word corruption and its real intended meaning is used and implied against us to cramp us, to prevent us from amassing capital at a certain level. So that's what the Constitution is addressing. Under the pressure of our past and present economic models that have been tried by our present and past leaders of the nation, with its manifold demand on the individual to act with integrity, the individual is tempted beyond measures to act in the interest of the party of which he or she is a member in the first instance, and secondly, in the interest of self. They have collectively failed to act in the interest of the people. We elect them to office, thereby betraying the trust of the people that gave them power. If you say, a lot of time when we analyze the political situation in Jamaica, we have a tendency to start from 1962. But I believe that is a fundamental error to start the analysis in its proper context in 1962. I believe we should go all the way back to 1929. And why I say 1929? Because 1929 forms the inception of our effort to form political parties in this country. And that initial undertaking and effort was done by no other than the Right Honorable Marcus Garvey with the formation of the People's Political Party. So knowing that, let's look at how these formations came about. Within short successive order, you had the formation of the People's National Party, I believe in 1938, and subsequently around 1940, the formation of the Jamaica Labour Party. And what we notice, and a lot of time we don't want to face the reality of the situation, is that from the inception of the Marcus Garvey People's political party. It has been seen as a threat by the establishment. It has always been seen as a threat by the status quo. And because it is seen that way, the other parties, the Jamaica Labour Party and the PNP Party, the People's National Party, has always coalesced around themselves, bring themselves together in a conspiratorial manner to dedicate themselves to the failure of the aims and objectives of the People's Political Party. To put it in a short term, the People's Political Party was too black. It was too black conscious. It was concentrating its time and effort and too much in trying to uplift and develop the masses of the black people in this country. So even though a lot of time you hear people speak of it in the shallow manner, that yes, both of them parties, they come together and black out the People's National Party, it has a deeper depth than that. We can go back to the time of William Grant, the same individual where them named the park off in a downtown Kingston, William Grant Park. There was always, like you see, the development of the struggle in this country. If we can go back to the inception of this country, when our ancestors first landed in this country around 1509, we have been resisting and we have cultivated an organic leadership body that has always stood by our collective consciousness and dedicated their willingness and their life to fight and die and kill for our liberation. But as we move closer and closer to independence, we notice a new emerging fifth columnist group. A group of leaders started to emerge at the turn of the 20th century, right? In the 1900s, these leaders now came out of the ruling colonial class. They were the offspring. And these offspring colonial class of people began to emerge as a political force within their own right, and seeing it as their aim and objective to prevent the natural organic leadership which the people themselves had evolved over centuries in this country. The bloodline of people, Marcus Garvey, Sam Sharp, Taki, Nani, various other leaders where the bloodline naturally is the forefront of the leadership of the struggle of this thing. Them ancestors were set aside, and we get the Busters, and we get the Manley, and we get the George William Garden, and we get all these manner of people who have different intention, who conspired with the ruling colonial and post-colonial class to keep the vast majority of the people in this country, the black people, subjugated politically and economically. And this conspiracy is giving full expression to the way how the system has consistently since its inception had and have dealt with Marcus Garvey philosophy and opinion and the Marcus Garvey People's Political Party. There's no getting around it. There's an active conspiracy to keep down the masses in this country. There's an active conspiracy to prevent the natural organic of the people's collective consciousness as expressed through their own leadership to emerge in this country. These are things a lot of us do not want to face. And this is what we are trying to address in this constitution, to show what the Marcus Garvey People's Political Party is about. So the leadership has consistently betrayed us since the 1930s. They are not our true leaders. Stop fooling ourselves. These are people who collaborated with the colonial forces and the British forces to become an intermediary, to become the other than intermediary, I want to find the next word. The interlink, the middleman. Yes, that's the word. They impose themselves as a middleman between the vast majority of the black people in this country and the ruling colonial class, which is the overseas metropolitan era, the British government and the American government, where them serve. And that's the truth. So when we talk about struggles in this country and leadership and conspiracy, it is real. But a lot of us don't want to face it. So let's continue. We are living the reality of the past administration. The state that Jamaica is today is directly proportional to the policies that have been practiced and are still being practiced by our now redundant set of politicians. As we sing our national anthem, give us vision lest we perish, and we are ably reminded by the Bible verses, Isaiah 4:6, my people perish for the lack of knowledge. Today, like Bob Marley sing and say, only the fool lean upon his own misunderstanding, and that is where we find the condition today. Every day when you walk the street of Kingston, and I think the length and breadth of the entire land, you hear people complaining about the basic condition. Go down a public hospital, go down there and see people lay down on the floor, go down there and see people if you line up from 3 o'clock in the morning, if you wait from 3 o'clock and if you wait till 10 o'clock and 9 o'clock to get process to go in. Go down there and hear the people complaining to each other, but whenever the election come around, them forget it. Everybody jumping at them party color, everybody collect them 5,000, and everybody vote the way how them feel, say them community mandate them for vote, or all the $5,000 where them take, mandate them for vote. And then after the election, them keep complaining, and complain about public transportation, complaining how the buses are not running on time, complaining about the lack of medication, complaining about disrespect services in the government agencies, complaining about the wages that people being paid under minimum wage, even though the government has set minimum wage, and even the minimum wage that has been set is not sufficient to make a working man livable. Every day you hear people complaining in the street. But the same people that complain in the street, whenever the election come around, they become the biggest cheerleader for the most inept set of politician leaders that this nation can put forth. Alright? We are living the reality after I read that already. The Marcus Garvey People's Political Party hereby offers the solution to the nation's demise with the creation of a paradigm shift in how the country have been governed in the past, calling on the combined knowledge of our ancestors. We will, when elected to office, govern with integrity, honesty, and justly. We will always act in the interest of the people, and will truly be the chief servants so elected by the people, to serve the people and to govern in the interest of the people. These are very good words. These are very, very good words. But without guardrails, without rules, without laws, without regulations, you know where I personally think? Like I tell you where I personally think. And this is not the position of the party. This is my personal position. I believe this country should only have the death penalty under one circumstances. And I believe the death penalty should only be applicable to politicians. The death penalty should be applicable to people who have sworn to a nation in public witness being offered to state that they shall abide by the rules and regulations and the constitution of this country and to govern to the best of their ability. Whenever they turn around and willfully betray the oath that they took to the people of this country and the nation and steal and rob up the money and go on, they should be the one sentenced to death. They should be the only one that can face the death penalty in this nation, because they have taken on the highest responsibility. They should foremost set the greatest example to this nation to live a life of integrity, to live a life of discipline, to live a life of principle. When them break that trust, when the whole entire nation put in them, a death penalty them for face. And that is the only circumstances under which I would ever sanction the penalty being imposed in this country. And we of the Marcus Garvey People's Party, when that day come and we get into power in it, we must face the death penalty for maladjustment and malaction and malfeasancy. We should be no exception to it. And I firmly believe when you have a judiciary system that is independent and stand firmly upon the constitutional law in this country, a politician will not sit down and try to fool himself and convince himself that he know people in high places, he know people in the judiciary will save him. No, him not for chop off, him not for swing down as him catch in prison as a politician. And that should go to anyone who imposes themselves upon this country as leadership and then go in there and betray that collective trust. But that is not the position of the party. That is my personal position. The only person in this country that should face the death penalty are politicians. And when they take the vote of office, they should know that the axe swing over them head 24/7 every day for any malfeasance they may bring about upon their part. In the words of our beloved founder, the political readjustment of the nation means that those who are not sufficiently educated, not sufficiently prepared, and not sufficiently able will be at the mercy of the organized group for another 100 years. As such, the end that you serve for all in common will get you into eternity. Therefore, let us, in shaping our own destiny, set before us the quality of justice, love, charity, mercy, and equity. Upon such foundation, let us build a just nation, Jamaica, land we love. And that is basically the prologue to the constitution that governs the Marcus Garvey People's Political Party. It's like a preamble, right? Now, after that comes the you have the mission statement. Then you have the vision statement. Then it goes into the party constitution. So I'm going to just run through the mission statement and the vision statement because they're brief and save the going into the actual constitution itself for another time. So under the mission statement, it said to effectively communicate with the people of Jamaica and manage the country's resources with the highest level of professionalism, competence, and integrity to the best of our combined ability, thereby resulting in the development and positive growth of our nation, Jamaica, land we love. So basically, we're talking about the Marcus Garvey People's Political Party. Is basically have sworn to effectively communicate with the people of Jamaica and manage the country's resources with the highest level of professionalism, competence, and integrity to the best of our combined ability, thereby resulting in the development and positive growth of our nation, Jamaica, land we love. I'd like to just say, let me get to the vision statement, then I'm going to briefly touch upon something, and then we can close out this session. The vision statement. It is the desire of the Marcus Garvey People's Political Party to embark upon a mission that culminates in the creation of an ideal state, one in which justice, peace, love, and equal rights are afforded to every citizen, regardless of our race, color, creed, class, political affiliation, religious belief, educational standard, or malfeasance. So that's what the vision is about, for basically govern this country in a form and fashion that's benefit the most people at every given time, where every man and every woman can see their way forward in this nation, where every man and every woman can live out their individual dreams and aspirations, while at the same time we are collectively living out the dream and aspiration of the collective Jamaican nation. Now let me say something else, brethren and sisters, real fast. We can set history, we can accomplish something that the Right Honorable Marcus Garvey dreamt about in 1929. To have the party or party members elected to the member of parliament in this nation. So the party, because Marcus Garvey himself already had a national platform, but he needed and he wanted a national platform within the institutions of this nation. Because you have to remember, Marcus Garvey was a councillor in Kingston. He got elected as a councillor. Let's not forget that. But his dream and aspiration was to represent the people at the national level within the parliament. Now, if we look at the last election, 60% of the people never vote. Well, that I tell you, say, 60% of the people, if not more, are looking for an alternative. And who can stretch their imagination and say that one day in this country, and more preferable this coming general election, maybe 3, 4, 5 years from now, we are representatives of the Marcus Garvey People's Political Party will be marching up North Street, going to Doug Street, going into the National. That will be one of the most historic moments and one of the most historic development that could have ever taken place in this country. And that is part of the collective power that we have. We can make it happen. We can shake up the system and bring a part of the Right Honorable Marcus Garvey dream alive. It is not far-fetched. It is not far-fetched. This party already entered election several years ago, and I believe either in St. Catherine or St. Anne's, I don't recall at this moment. The person who ran on the ticket and represented the Marcus, they got 2,000 votes. Where the winner of the constituency has gotten 3,000. So it is not impossible. It is within the realms of probability, stronger than possibility, within the realms of probability. So this is what we are striving for. This is what we need to get done. This is what we would like to give expression to in that upcoming election. So thank you very much until next time. Bless up.